Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast. I am so excited to launch this new podcast, and I'm even more excited about our first guest, Rosie Ward, who is just a dear friend, an amazing coach, an amazing facilitator, and someone who has made a difference in my life through her Courageous Leadership program. So I thought, what better way to launch the Lead Different podcast than with someone who leads with the why of challenge the status quo. She's all about doing things differently, doing things better, and contributing to the success of others. Rosie, welcome to the Lead Different podcast. How are you?
I am doing so well, my friend. I am so excited for you and so happy to be here.
Well, the reason I'm having you here is, you're a fierce advocate for humanity. People look for you when they want to help rehumanize workplaces that free, fuel, and inspire people to bring their best selves to work and home every single day. And I said, what better way to launch a podcast that talks about how to lead different? And what we're talking about is, don't do what everybody else does, because that's already been done. And you're a great champion for that. So thank you for agreeing to be my first guest.
It is my absolute pleasure, and I'm honored.
So Rosie, what's new in 2024 for you? What are you excited about right now?
There is a lot I'm excited about. We have a lot of new people we are partnering with to bring offerings to the table. We are partnering with Jen Marr and her Inspiring Comfort program and showing up to teach leaders and teams actually how to show up and provide care and help people feel seen in their struggles. Right now, there's so much struggling going on in our world, and people don't know how to actually help others feel seen in a meaningful way. They don't know how to ask for help. And so when we think about rehumanizing workplaces, it's just a great addition to add in. I'm excited. We have a lot of clients that are just really leaning into thoughtful assessment of their leaders, succession planning. How can we help our teams be better? I think there's just a recognition that, when you put a bunch of humans together, guess what? We have opportunity, but we also have challenges, because as human beings as you know, Dan, from the work you've done with us already, like, it is in our DNA to self-protect and to get in our own way. And we need to have tools and language and common tools and language across teams and across leaders to help us not be hijacked by our insecure 10-year-old selves that are running the show way more than we realize, and really start to show up in a way that's more collaborative, that's more curious, that's more connected, rather than defensive, judgmental, and disconnected. And so I'm just super excited about the momentum that we are gaining. We recently won a Stellar Business Award. There's just a lot of really good stuff going on that I'm super jazzed for the impact that we get to have and we keep having with our community and with our clients. And yeah, it's good so far. 2024 is going to be a good year.
I couldn't agree with you more, Rosie. And you said something, I want to make sure we dig into that, because one of the things, I can't encourage people enough to attend your Courageous Leadership program. Tell us a little bit about it. We're going to make sure we put it in the show notes, but what are the dates? And tell us a little bit more about the 2 days.
Yeah. So the Courageous Leadership program really came from, most of the work that we do is with organizations, and we do have a few public training programs, but where the Courageous Leadership program came is, how can we basically kind of put all of our tools that are kind of our golden tools in one spot to really equip people with what they need fundamentally to thrive in this life. So the Courageous Leadership Program is for anybody at any level, whether you are a formal leader or informal leader. We believe everybody has an opportunity to show up as a leader in their life. And it's 2 different days. It is virtual, but it is highly interactive. We have a kick-ass playlist. I'm a music person that you do get afterwards, build really good community. And it starts with self. So the first day is all about self and giving you tools to better understand what makes you tick and to understand how you can get out of your own way and just really fundamentally understanding your deeper level so that when your humanity tries to hijack you, you can instead show up courageously and have the impact you want to have. And then in day 2, we start to shift to how do you lead and influence others, whether you have a formal leadership role or not. So you can use this in parenting, you can use this with colleagues, you can use this to lead up, you can certainly use this to lead others, whether it's in an organization or on a team or activities. And it's really about how do you call others to greatness? How do you have feedback conversations? We're kind of, again, giving a lot of the tools. We use the YOS discovery in that workshop as well. And that our hope is that people walk away with like, hey, I can show up as a better version of myself on my team. We have some organizations who send teams to it. If they want to go deeper, we obviously have other work that we do, but it's really kind of our greatest hits of what people need to fundamentally show up and thrive in this environment that is increasingly disruptive, increasingly disconnected, and is sometimes the worst of humanity can come out.
Right.
And this is about how do we help people get back to the best of themselves in spite of these circumstances that we might be dealing with.
So lead different followers. I want you to write down those dates. It's May 13th and 14th. Save those 2 days and don't try to cheat and go to one day and not the other. Make sure you clear your calendar because, hey, I've got to tell you, Rosie, I did it that way. I thought, oh gosh, it's 2 days. Can I block off 2 days? And I tried to do it while trying to do other work at the same time, missing parts of it. And it wasn't as powerful. And then in the fall, I attended, I fully committed, closed the door, shut it down, and listened. And you talk about getting to that 10-year-old Daniel and getting to what are the things that are getting in your way. I owe you this podcast, the Why Not Leadership creation. I owe that to that clarity, the amazing experience that I had just digging into Dan for a couple of days and understanding, because I knew my why. I knew some of the things that you cover already. That's how we met. We're both fellow why coaches, but the way you take that and take it to another level, I am telling anybody that's listening, sign up, block the dates on your calendar because Rosie brings a ton of value. And I can tell you, I know that the price is, I think the price is $500 for the 2 days. It is worth that and so much more. So kudos to you for bringing something so valuable at such an easy and affordable price, Rosie.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Well, and I'm so just grateful that you came back. And I think so often too, and we see something that is virtual on our calendar, a virtual conference, whatever. Oh, I can multitask during it, or I can do other things. And it really doesn't work, and you're not going to want to, right? And so I love that you came back and fully committed to it. And I also love that you had that experience, and not necessarily everyone that goes through is, ooh, I'm going to start my own company or whatnot. But I love that you got the passion. I love that you got the clarity. And that's really what we want, not just from this program, but from the work we do. Like, think about if on your team, everybody has clarity of how they can show up and fully contribute and have their gifts, and in your workplace, and people, aren't being hijacked by these self-limiting stories that we all tell ourselves to keep us safe and small. Like, we aren't going to be able to rise to the demands that this world keeps throwing at us unless we fundamentally dig in and do the work ourselves to kind of upgrade and upshift that inner narrative that is stuck in a younger, insecure, version of ourselves. Like, we've got to upshift everybody. So I love that for you. And I will say, if people can't do the May dates, I think we're doing one in the fall that's like October 29th and 30th or something like that too. But do it sooner rather than later.
It is the 29th and 30th. It's funny because I was just on with Mark Hunter, the sales hunter, and he's a great sales coach. And he talks about that. Here's the thing. You can do it in May or you can do it in October. But do you want to wait 4 or 5 more months of possible tremendous improvement that you could have in yourself and in your business. There's a cost to putting things off, especially things that are going to have such tremendous value. And I know this. You absolutely will get some value out of this if you commit to doing it. And by the way, even the playlist is worth the price of admission, Rosie Ward. You do such a great job. And it's probably, I know it doesn't seem like it, but Rosie and I are close in age and we listened to the same music growing up. And she's got a great playlist. That bottom line, she knows how to pick the songs. So that alone is worth it. Plus, we get to have a happy hour, share some drinks. That's part of the program. So, well, let's talk about that a little. Something else, as I was listening to you, Rosie, I love the way you take it into know yourself. You dig into yourself, and then how do you use it with others? And why not leadership? One of the things that we do is work with teams to help them understand themselves, understand their fellow team members, and then ultimately understand their leader. Leaders have a tough time in this world today, because I listened to and I want to get your thoughts on this, Rosie. I listened to a gentleman. I gave a keynote this past weekend, and one of the other speakers talked about virtual, artificial intelligence and AI, and how we're all going to be working with less humans going forward. So as we work with less people, how much more critical is it that we have really great relationships with those people? We really want to help them understand them and make sure we are getting along as best as possible, understand those people, and that they understand us. What are your thoughts on the fact that, hey, the workforce is going to get smaller? He talked about it. We're going to lose like 370,000 jobs worldwide to AI, but we're going to create like 390,000. So there's going to be different roles that people will play, and they're going to be much more specialized. So if you've got a smaller, more specialized team, you really want to make sure you don't get surprised by that resignation. Give me your thoughts.
It's such a great topic and it's so timely. And I was just being interviewed on another show a couple weeks ago about this. And here's the thing is, it can be unsettling. I mean, in our book, Rehumanizing the Workplace, we talked about this, and that came out in 2020, about the shift that is happening in the workforce. And this is before, the boom of AI in recent months and years. And I think fundamentally, the opportunity is for recognizing that what AI can do is free up, and I don't, this is going to sound flippant, but maybe some more of like the monotonous or tasks that take a lot of extra time and effort, so that humans actually can be freed up for the things that only humans can do. And I think where we get stuck is that people, we are hardwired as human beings to cling tightly to what is familiar and what is comfortable. So like if I've manually always data entered the stuff and that's what I know and that's where I think add value in the workforce, and now that's going to be automated, suddenly it's threatening to me because what value can I add? And now I wonder where I belong. Am I not enough or whatever? But there are so many other gifts and talents that I have. And man, if I didn't do that and there were other ways, and this is where like the YOS can be helpful and other work that you do and that we do, if I have a greater understanding of self and a greater understanding of my colleagues and where my gifts and talents can shine, maybe it's, I can stretch myself and I can get out of my comfort zone. And now this doesn't feel so threatening. And machines can't form relationships. And the other thing about the rise of AI is that, we have a crisis in this country and globally, quite frankly, of mental health, of loneliness, of stress, of burnout. And AI only amplifies that. And so nothing can replace building the skills of human connection. Nothing can take the place of building the skills of how do we actually show up and meaningfully connect with other people, not by sitting on our phone through a device. And you look at even like the younger generations, people in schools right now that are going to be coming into the workforce, there's a big gap in terms of not just communication skills, but there's also a huge gap in terms of loneliness and feeling seen. And that's stuff that only humans can do. And so I think, like, to your point, yeah, there's going to be new jobs created, but it's also an understanding of, wow, there's going to be potentially an even greater increase of disconnection, of loneliness, of stress, of burnout, that if we don't get ahead of it and care for it now, all of this stuff is going to feel threatening. And I think we're going to see stuff potentially get worse before it gets better. And so I think that we can care for it in a thoughtful way rather than being caught off guard and pretending we didn't see it coming, and upskill people now to relate differently, care differently, show up differently.
I love that. Anytime you put differently in there, I'm going to love it, Rosie. But it's absolutely true. As we, I have one of my old friends, Wilton Rogers. He started a company called a process. He talks about RPA, robotic process automation, before AI, and now his company, Simply Automate. It's Simply Automate now. That's exactly what they do. They help people automate as much as they can, so that their people are free to do that really human stuff. The connection that Rosie and I have as human beings doesn't happen with AI. It doesn't happen between the text messages that we send and receive, that automated workflow that we all create using our CRMs. That doesn't get you the relationship. The relationship happens when you get people face to face, eye to eye, whether it's on Zoom. And thankfully for me, I've had an opportunity to see Rosie in real life a couple of times. That's when that critical stuff happens. So you can really free up your human capital to do those human-centric things. And so rehumanizing the workplace, I think, Rosie, you're going to have to add a couple of chapters and relaunch the book.
Well, it's funny you say. I'm actually working on a new book that is taking a lot of our courageous leadership work. And I will tell you right now, we're in the middle of finishing up a really cool research project that we're going to launch a white paper, probably do a webinar on. I'm going to say probably April or May. So stay tuned on that. I'll give you info. But basically what we've been doing is we've been taking a person who's an expert in qualitative data analysis and has been going through all of our past podcast episodes of Show Up as a Leader, and taking hundreds and hundreds of people who we have supported through the Immunity to Change coaching process, which is all about healing that inner narrative. I know we did the mapping during the Courageous Leadership program, and we're looking at common themes of what are the most common self-limiting stories that people tell themselves, what are the most common adaptive change goals people are working on, kind of what are we needing to have more human workplaces. And we're kind of looking at, what are those commonalities? Because I think when we're in that space, we think we're alone. We think it's just us. And we know that that's not true. And so we are working on it. So I share that because I have several working titles and we've got the outline and stuff. So hopefully by the end of this year, maybe the book will be ready and it'll come out next year, but really working on a book that's more towards you as the individual of here's what we've learned. Here's all my tools. It's kind of like Rosie in my pocket on steroids, but like, here's what you need to show up as a leader in your life and have the impact you want to have. And very practical, very tangible. So there you go. Not a relaunch of Rehumanizing the Workplace, but really looking at the human itself and how can you show up? How can you show up in a way that is going to let your sparkle shine?
So it's even better than relaunch than adding 2 chapters to the book. And it's a whole new book. I can't wait to help you launch that, because I know it's going to bring a ton of value to so many people. There's a couple of things you talk about. Rosie in My Pocket. You post, I think every Thursday you put out a Rosie in My Pocket. That's real. When I started thinking about it, and we, Rosie, we're kind enough to put your YOS on your name. So challenge, better way, contribute. That's your contribute showing up. I know Rosie is a person who wants to make a difference, make a positive impact. And that Rosie in Your Pocket, I mean, there's so many people out there that put out such valuable content, and you do the same thing. And that's how you're contributing. And I think of courageous leadership as kind of the stuff that Rosie provides to companies and to enterprise clients and to those high ticket clients, and you're putting it together into a 2-day workshop. So it's kind of like the Cadillac in a mini car, really, but it's so valuable. And so I want to give you kudos for allowing that contribute in you to come out and to offer this taste of this is what the big ticket clients get from Rosie, but we're going to give you a taste of it over these 2 couple of days. Would you agree with that?
I love that. Well, and yeah, it really is my contribute. I mean, everything we do, and I mean, this gets into how powerful the YOS can be as your filter, as well as, operationalizing your core values and your purpose as a company, because everything that we do as an organization through Salveo Partners and that I do as an individual human being and leader is through that filter of, does this make sense? Is this aligned? And the Rosie in My Pocket was honestly from clients saying like that I would coach or be working with teams, and they would say, "Oh, can I just have you in my pocket in that meeting?" And literally this happened several times. And I'd be like, "What, you want a bobblehead of me?" That would be kind of creepy. But as I started thinking about it, I was like, think about it. We all from time to time need reminders to bring us back to tools and resources that maybe we learn, but we've forgotten about, we get disconnected from because we're busy. And that was really the impetus behind it. And I thought, I'll put, couple out there, and then they just kind of like expanded, and I was like, okay, people find value and it's kind of fun, and it's like, okay, here you go. So and so I guess the Courageous Leadership Program is kind of like a whole lot of Rosie in my pocket, but we wanted specifically to put it at a price point that is much more affordable, right, than coming in and doing in-depth work for organizations. One, to give you a taste, so hey, you could go more, but also two, like, it's valuable obviously in and of itself, and we didn't want price to be a hindrance. And so when we think about, how do we service our purpose and our why as an organization, it just felt right and it made sense.
Well, there's something else that I want to make sure we talk about, and that is, and again, I don't want this to be all about the Courageous Leadership Program, but guess what? We're going to talk about it because it's that good. And here's the thing. You also have a discount for nonprofits. So if somebody's employed by a nonprofit organization or they're supporting historically underserved populations, you actually offer people free registration. So or discounted. I'm not sure. So I want to make sure I don't commit to the wrong thing here. So how does that work?
Yeah. So for the Courageous Leadership Program, because it's already at a low price point, we actually let them enroll for free because we feel so compelled that we don't want that to be a barrier. We have other programs, like we have our Dare to Lead. I'm a certified Dare to Lead facilitator. I trained with Brene Brown in 2019, and a couple of our other programs, if you fill up a nonprofit discount, those are at a discounted rate, but they're at a higher price point. The Courageous Leadership Program is for free. So there's a form on the website that people fill out because we just want to make sure that, like, how are you going to use it? We want some thought to it versus just here randomly we're going to give out the discount code. But then Lisa on my team emails them with a code to register for free because we really want the people who want this and need this to be able to access it and not have that be a hindrance if they're at a nonprofit or, to your point, work with underserved communities.
Love that. So thank you very much for doing that. And you know that I lead with contribute, so that just touches me. Thank you so much for being so open to allowing that to happen. And we all want to make a difference, right? We all want to know that the work that we do makes a difference. And I know that your work does. Lisa, Rosie, let's talk about this. Lisa, where did that come from?
Well, because
you mentioned Lisa.
It takes a Lisa to make fusion, or to make fusion. It takes a Lisa to make Salveo Partners happen. So there we go.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Lisa. That's where Lisa came from. So I was wondering where that came from. So Rosie, tell us where does your why of challenge come from? I like you took me back to my 10-year-old self and made me cry. So I'm not going to make you cry, but take us back to when do you first remember being that challenge or being that person that said, hey, why do we have to do it that way? There's a different way to do it. It's got to be fun. It's got to be different. Can you think back to one of your earliest memories of challenging the status quo?
Oh, God, yeah. Well, so here's the deal. I'm the youngest of 5 girls. So, and what was so interesting is my next 2 oldest were only 18 months apart, and they were like a grade apart, and they were very similar and had similar friends and all of that. And so honestly, from as early as I can remember, I'm talking like 4, 5 years old, I was trying to like carve out my own identity beyond the hand-me-downs. And that I am not my sisters. I am not them. I had different interests. I wanted to dance. I used to walk around and sing and talk into my thumb like I had a microphone. I, watched Facts of Life and Fame. I'm showing my age, and they wanted to watch like reruns of Star Trek and get smart and stuff. I was so different from them, and I knew it. And I swore I didn't belong in this family. I thought I had to be adopted because I was like, there is no way. There is absolutely no way. And so, and actually I talk about this in my keynotes that I give as well. And I elaborate on that story, and there's a fun story that goes with it that I'm not going to give away here. But stay tuned. But here's the thing is when I look back, I think it has just been a constant, like, wanting to be seen and valued for me and feeling different and my uniqueness. At the same time, there's this pull, like all of us as human beings, of wanting to feel like I belonged and wanting to feel like I mattered. And so, this is very hallmark of people with a why of challenges. If you either feel like there's something wrong with you or you eventually lean into it. And I think there was this push-pull a lot during my childhood. I felt differently than my friends or whatever. And I was always kind of, oh, can we do this differently? Or what about this? Or what about that? I loved, like, Dr. Seuss is amazing. I love, like, one of my favorite quotes is, why fit in when you were born to stand out? And so, yeah, I just, since I can remember, it's like, bam, there you go.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because both of my daughters have the Y of challenge. And so here's an added benefit of me having known Rosie Ward and having access to her. And sorry, guys, those of you that are paying her thousands of dollars to work with her, I sometimes get her for free for a few minutes here and there. But one of the things that you've been so helpful with is understanding the Y of challenge. Even though it's part of my YOS, it's not my why. And you've met Sophia, who is every bit of a challenge kid. And
Oh,
we've
she's
had some.
amazing. She's just, oh, I love her. She's so amazing.
Well, you've helped our relationship, because when I look at her and she's challenging me, and I remember this from Jazz, who's a full grown adult now, and how frustrating having a wide challenge, a kid with the Y of challenge can be. But we've been doing so well, because I've learned that, hey, you've got to let challenge people be themselves. And you brought something up that's really important. People with the Y of challenge, what I have found, are either wildly successful when they finally lean into it and become who they are, or they can be, just almost a shell of who they really are, because they're trying to hold themselves back and they're trying to fit in. And so it's so important to know this about yourself and live into it. How did you gain the courage? What gave you the courage to be the Rosie that you are?
I think it's a lot of hard work, in all honesty. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when I was a junior in high school, I hit a wicked rough patch, and I was thankful enough that my parents are leaned in enough and had the resources and put me in therapy. So I've done therapy off and on. I think then in my early 20s, I just started getting involved in various, I don't like calling it self-help, but finding ways to, like, learn about myself, look at myself differently. I started getting involved in self-development programs, started getting involved in coaching. Gosh, I've been in the coaching world since like 2004. God, I'm going on 20 years now. So I just think it's like, the more that I worked on myself and started to realize that, like, there's not something wrong with me, and that the crap that happened to me in childhood didn't have to define me, and that the people that maybe rejected me here, like, I'm not that person anymore and stuff. And so it took a lot of deep inner work, and I think it's ongoing. I mean, we're all working on ourselves, but I think it was just starting to go, I feel like I have something to offer, and it's not in an egomaniac way. That's where the contribute comes in. I feel like I have something to offer, and I have to stop trying to be like other people. And I just need to figure out who I am and let myself be me. And I will tell you that when that shift happened, I can't say there was one day. It was like a slow evolution. But the more and more I started to say, I'm going to be me, it was like peace and freedom and calm. And when I try to, like, when I get away from that and try to be someone other than me, I'm stressed, I'm crabby, I'm irritable, I'm frantic. It's just night and day.
Well, isn't that it's when it's all about, you get to live into your zone of genius, right? I think at Salveo Partners, what you're doing is you're daily challenging the status quo. You're daily finding better ways for leaders to lead, and you're daily contributing to the success of those leaders that you work with. And it's the same, right? If you can do that every single day, it's not work, is it?
Mm-mm. No, I love it. Like, I feel like I mean, there are some times where there's some work aspects, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's like I get to play, and I get to, because it's just like, this matters. And I think there is something to be said when you figure out where your genius is, when you figure out where you can shine. And they say, you won't work a day in your life. I think you do work some, but it's just, yeah, it's so energizing. It's more of managing, like, this is where you have to manage the contribute, not overcommitting, and being mindful about capacity and stuff, so that I can still show up and do that. And that's the key.
Well, let's get a Rosie in your pocket moment here, because this is an important one. How do you say no in order? So first of all, those of us with contribute in our top three, we tend to say yes to too much, right? Whether it's our why or if it's our what. How do you find the strength to say no, or even the nerve to say no, when your heart really just wants to say yes and help everybody that you can?
Yep. So this has been a lot of trial and error. I'm not going to lie. And I have learned to just be super diligent about boundaries, and everyone's different. I have learned for me, I live and die by my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. And so I used to try to schedule what I would call buffer time, and that didn't work because I would schedule over it. So now I schedule meeting with me. And it's like, would I schedule, if this was a client meeting, would I just skip it? No. And the other thing that we've done from a team standpoint is there, from a prioritization, there's this metaphor that's been around a long time about if you're holding a bucket of balls, like the glass balls are the ones that you don't want to drop, they will shatter. Wood balls, right? Rubber. And we've said that self-care and client work are glass balls, always. And I think that's super critical. And so when I have I'm going to skip it, I'm like, nope, it's a glass ball. It's a glass ball. And so one, that's like helps me look at my calendar. And then if my calendar is really jammed, I've learned to put in some, like, I need flow time, buffer time. And if my calendar is jammed and someone's asking for me, I have to say, I'm sorry, I don't have capacity this week. And I still have I have these two little stickers by my Post-it notes on my computer. And it says, do I really have the capacity? So you're seeing it right here. It's there and it's in bright pink. So I see it. And what is the cost of taking this on? And so if I'm looking at my calendar and I'm thinking, ooh, right. Oh, I want to do that. And then I look at this. And so so there's that. And then I will say, then this is where I use my values and my YOS to also be mindful of, am I saying yes to the right things? Is this the best and brightest use of my time where my gifts can contribute? It doesn't mean that I don't care about something, but you know what? It's not me. It's not now.
I love that. That's a great answer. And Rosie, I think, can you believe it? We've been talking for 30 minutes. What do you say we end the show on that note?
Why not?
Thank you so much. You got the cue. Rosie, thank you so much for sharing your talent, your story. I can't wait to have you back on. First of all, thank you for being our lead guest, our number one guest on the Lead Different podcast. We can't wait to share your story with Why Not Leadership Nation. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for being a Lead Different guest.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different because great leaders change the world.